Okay, so we will begin, all right, our little sharing. Okay, so maybe before we start, we will say a short prayer. We'll ask Mother Mary to bless all of us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Okay, good evening, everyone. Okay, so just to introduce ourselves. So my name is Kirk. This is my wife, Claire. So we are very happy to be here today to share a little bit about our experience and also a little bit about how we can all maybe work towards having a bright and cheerful home in our family. So just to briefly introduce, so we have been married for 23 years, right? So we have 6 children, 6 kids. So we have 2 daughters and 4 sons. So our eldest is 21, then our youngest is 9. So we still have some ways to go, right? So we would definitely want to have a bright and cheerful home, right? With a big family, okay?
Okay, so we start this talk by sharing with you this quotation. The most important work that you and I will ever do will be within the walls of our very own homes. So if you think about it, in our own homes, that's where characters are being formed. That's where our children experience love. And that's where the children are being formed in the faith. So as parents, we must remember that we are the main educators. We always talk about our parents as the primary educators of our children. And that is actually a very great responsibility. It's a very heavy responsibility. And it's not something that you and I can ever escape. Or it's not also something that we can lighten, right? So sometimes when you think about it, it's like, we have that heavy responsibility to bring our children up in the faith and to form them in their characters and to be the first ones to help them to experience safety, love, and the environment of the home. But it's also a very noble responsibility. It's also a very beautiful responsibility. And for us to then be the ones to help our children grow up in the faith, to learn to take the faith as their own, and to be able to love God as a child of God. And so today we hope to share with you some of the tips that we kind of gathered from some reading material and also from our own, and hopefully we'll share a little bit of our own experience and how we can actually have this warm and loving atmosphere in our own homes. So we have 10 tips. So basically the talk will be on 10 points. And then, so we'll go into each and every one of them right now. So the first one is actually physical environment. So that's a bit on the superficial side, right? So just the physical environment itself. So many times when we look at bright and cheerful home, we're looking at, the formation, the character of the children and all that. But actually, first we need to look at the environment, the physical environment itself. Is this a place that is pleasing, that is peaceful, that is visually appealing? A good place, a space for the children, a sacred space, would actually allow a greater sense of well-being. So the home should be functional. It should provide a space for everybody, but yet it's not a showroom. Okay, so recently a friend of mine shared with me that her home is very, very tidy. She keeps it very tidy. It's one of the things that she feels that is her responsibility as a stay-at-home mother, right? But then what happened is that when she invites friends over for her children to have play dates, she found that the children were not playing. They were all sitting, then all very a bit scared, no? Then she also noticed that when she went to her friend's house, when her children goes to the friend's house, they will go into the house and they start playing. And then later she realized, so she tried this trick. She started, when she invites friends over, she will start throwing some toys around the house, keeping it a little bit more there are people living in it. And she found that, it really did help. And children, when they come to the house, started playing straight away. So I thought that was a very good point because it made me think that maybe that's why our home, we always have a lot of people coming in and out, and they're very comfortable. Our children's friends come to our house very, very often. And they are very comfortable because it's not it's not untidy, but it's not neat either. It's not a showroom either. And I think maybe that is the little secret that we didn't realize it until now. Yeah, so that physical environment is actually a good one for us to think about. How is our physical environment? As our children were coming along, as we were growing our family, we also realized that the physical environment helps. It's important for us to sit down and discuss about the physical environment to make sure there's a space for each child to study, for each child to have a space for that they call their own things. They have a space to put that, a place to work, and a place to be able to even have a place to pray, a place to eat. So that's important, right? So that's a physical environment in itself. Then we go into atmosphere. Right, we know a physical environment in itself is not sufficient, right? So obviously it's the atmosphere. So what kind of atmosphere do you actually have in your home? And the atmosphere in your home, is it warm, is it friendly, or is it tense and cold? So when people come, do they feel comfortable, or do they feel like, like very quiet, very tense, that kind of thing? The home has to be a place where everyone feels safe and they are at peace, where they feel that they are accepted for who they are. Sometimes our children and even ourselves, we go through difficulties when we are outside, right? Children may be a bit rejected. Maybe they have some problems at school or with friends. Maybe they don't feel that they're doing so well at school, or they had a hard day or something like that. But when they come home, can they know and be assured that they are accepted for who they are, that we will love them whatever it is, and that they're not judged, but they are loved and they are accepted. So then that's for us to think about, right? What kind of atmosphere do we have in the home? Is the home a loving, affectionate place where each one is loved and is loving others and is learning to love others? Is the home also a human kind of atmosphere, has a human kind of atmosphere? That means people can make mistakes. We do make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we are not perfect, but we learn from these mistakes. So it's that kind of a human kind of atmosphere, where we don't have to be always perfect and strong, and the mother doesn't have to always be there for everybody, or the father doesn't have to be there for everybody, but we can have our moments where we feel a little bit down, where we feel that we're not so up to it, or we may be like a broken vessel or something, but it's okay because we're still human. Is the atmosphere in the home a healthy and a strong one? That means, as in the family, especially we as the parents, respect our children, but at the same time we demand. That means we respect them for who they are, but at the same time we are also calling upon them to say that, you can do a little better. I believe in you. You can try a little bit more. So that kind of healthy and strong environment that helps the children to grow in resilience, to not to persevere even when it's hard. And healthy and strong in the sense that at the same time, whilst we are trying to make demands of our children, we are also patient and understanding. We realize that they are trying. We see the efforts that they're putting in. The atmosphere also would cover that of a supernatural kind of an atmosphere. So is God the center of the home? Is His presence felt? And the atmosphere is quite important because the atmosphere in the home will not only take away the evil influences of the world, right, in that sense. It actually means that when we have a strong family, we're able to, with that strong family, be able to transform the world. So we have to think of it that way, that each of our families, when we are a Christian family, when we are a strong family, we are, in a very small way, but still in a very powerful way, making a difference in society. So hence, therefore, that pleasant, loving home is actually a very good environment. This kind of an atmosphere is a very good environment for us to teach our children. Only in that kind of a safe, where the children feel accepted, that kind of an environment, will the child feel that they can learn, where they will be able to thrive. And the other thing that we also want to share is that if your home is not a happy home, and if you are a Christian home, then your children will associate that the home is not happy, hence the faith doesn't bring me happiness. So the moment the children grow up, they're going to disassociate themselves from the home as well as from the faith. So that's something for us to also think about.
Okay, then of course, before a home is created, right, there must be union, right? So of course it's the married life. So it's the unity between husband and wife, right? So that actually is the start of a home. So I think we all know, right? Let us also remember that it's a marriage union, right? Then comes the children. So I think a lot of us tend to, especially for those who have kids, right? They forget that actually the spouse, right, came before the kids. So that's something very important, all right? In fact, without this spousal union, there will be no kids. So when we go into married life, right, especially when we have children, we have to make sure that that is the focus, the love between the husband and wife, right? It is a struggle because especially when children comes along, right, there is always distractions, there is always excuses, right, that say that the children are most important, right? But the fact is that a lot of people neglect, all right, that it is the husband and wife that is most important. And I think the children also can attest to that, right? That they would love to see their mother and father being happy, being united, right? To feel that there is this love between the husband and wife. It is through that love, right, that they know that they feel secure in the home, right? So I think that is always something that we have also experienced ourselves, and we would like to, hopefully remind couples that the focus should be on strengthening the relationship between the husband and wife, right? There's a lot of discussions, a lot of books and stuff to talk about all these, relationship communication and all. So all this is basically to strengthen the couple relationship. Okay, then of course children, right? So welcoming children. So it's a natural progression, right? A natural consequence of a loving union that children will come along. So, but maybe more so nowadays, right? Couples are not as open, right? They would want to wait sometimes, right? They say, okay, let's wait for a while. Career comes first, or sometimes they say, okay, we want to enjoy ourselves a little bit more, right? Have some free time. Or some said, okay, I want children, but maybe two is good enough. One girl, one boy. Because anything more, I think I can't give time, right? I won't have enough energy, right, to give. But actually, it is funny, right? So we personally find that the more children we have, actually the more time we have, all right? Of course, not for ourselves, right? But the more time we have for the family. So actually, if you look at the church's documents, right, there is no document, right, that actually encourages couple to limit family size. Okay, so actually the churches, if you go back to the church's document, actually they encourage large families, because it is in large families whereby a lot of the life lessons can be learned. All right. Love is unlimited, right? There's no limit to love, right? So people think that, oh, if I have one kid, all right, okay, my full attention to the kid. If I have two, it's going to be 50%. If I have three, it's going to be divided by 3. But love doesn't work this way, right? We find that the more kids we have, the more love that we can give, right? So it's actually exponentially multiplied. It's something that we didn't feel that we could do it, right? But when you go into it, when you have more, you will realize that you have more to give. And okay, some say, okay, there's not enough time also, right? Time is something that I believe is how we prioritize, right? If you prioritize your time on building relationships, right, with people, with God, ultimately you have more time, right? I think sometimes we look at time as, okay, my time, whether I have the time to do what I want to do, okay? But actually, when you have children, your time is no longer yourself, but for others. So when you have all these things, you're right, actually there's more time to do a lot of things. So we want to encourage, those of you who are, especially young couples, to don't limit yourself, right? Don't worry. God provides, right? Having a large family is something that is really joyful and really, I would say, there's so many blessings to it, and we can really attest to it. So, right, I mean, after this session, we can share with you a lot more, okay?
Okay, about family and having children, we also want to share with you that any type of parent, we know that there are parents who are very, very involved, and then we have the fathers or mothers who may be very busy at work, or the ones who are maybe very kanchong, like they're very worried. They worry, like the mothers who wake up, the first thing they do is worry till the moment they sleep, right? Or a parent who is more militarian, it doesn't really matter. What we have found out is that anyone can be a good parent. So the whole important thing to be a good parent is to be consistent, to continue to persevere. I think the one thing that we as parents must really remember is never to give up. And your child, at whatever age, we can always still continue to help them to grow. And as we are helping them to grow, we are also growing as parents. I think our journey, we have found that as we are teaching our children, or many times our children are the ones who make us realize that we have to change first. And that's when we actually discover that we become better people in that process. So whatever style you have, don't bother about it, don't worry too much about it. Yes, it's good to know, because if you know your style, you know how to adjust and be more effective. But then any style, whatever style you have is okay. You can still be a wonderful dad or a wonderful mom. And also to realize and learn that in order to have that home that looks at the husband and wife relationship as well as that of the parenting relationship with the children, right? It's important for us to learn and to realize men and women operate very differently. So all these will also help you in your expectations in how you manage the home. Because if you understand that men and women operate differently, and then you can iron through those kinks that you will have as you go through marriage, you will find that you will get through it. You will be able to get through it. So I think Kirk has a story about laundry, isn't it? Like...
I mean, laundry. The men and women, right? It's different, right? I mean, so my wife always says, okay, this laundry basket is for colored clothes. This laundry basket is for white clothes, right? But I mean, for us men, right? Sometimes we're colorblind, all right? So. Right, it doesn't really matter, right? It's like just clothes, right? So these are the little things that, very small things, but it can be a source of annoyance, right, to your spouse. But it is always through some of these things that you understand, then we can try to overlook it. But of course, doesn't mean that for myself, I will still try, right? Probably I fail like like out of 10 times, maybe I fail 9, right? But I still have to try one time. Right, so I think there's something that we can always appreciate.
I think the other thing we also discovered for young couples nowadays is that many couples nowadays, both husband and wife work. But even if both husband and wife don't work, oftentimes the husband's job is a big obstacle in a marital relationship, because the wife often sees the husband working so much that it becomes a big interference or a big obstacle to his involvement in the family. And the husband sees his job as his greatest contribution to the family. And many times that little difference in the way that they view the husband's job has led to many misunderstandings. So for us then, we are trying to attain that unity in the home, which has to be achieved through effort. And this unity comes about often through appreciation, through affirmation. That means we actually tell each other how and see, we really have to open our eyes and our ears to see the effort put in by the other person, to see that that person is being there for you or is doing that much for the family, and then appreciating it, because all of us, our human need, right, is to be appreciated. We really want to be appreciated, and when we feel appreciated, we feel that we have the strength to carry on, to go on, even though it's hard. And so between husband and wife, let's show each other a little bit more appreciation. In Boston, a clinical psychologist who counsels married couples who are actually in the brink of breaking up. He shared that many times when he has a couple into his clinic, he will ask the wife, he'll ask the husband, do you miss your wife when she's not there? And then the husband will say yes. And then the wife will be like really shocked because she's like, he's never said that, And then the same way when the clinical psychologist will ask the wife, like, do you miss your husband when he's not there? And she says, yeah, his presence brings me a sense of safety. I feel secure when he's around. And so with that, just a simple expression of gratitude for our spouse, for our children, for the people that we work with, human need, right? It's just that of appreciation. And if we can just do that, that will already build that special unity in the home and unity in any relationship that you actually have.
So I think another thing that is important also is in terms of I think Claire mentioned a little bit about parenting styles and all, right? But I think one thing is also important, not so much the style, but the way we parent our children, the way that we discipline, the way that we agree to disagree. Especially children, right? They will know, right? Usually, sometimes they will try to find the parents' weak points, right? So sometimes they'll ask. So one of the biggest contention we have is, for example, staying over, right? So our kids, from a young age, they always like to stay over their friend's house. Okay, but for us, we didn't allow our kids to stay over, right? Until maybe they were 20? Okay. Well, so it all depends. But I think the point is that you have to already agree on these things with your spouse, all right? And don't have this situation whereby when the child asks the mom, right, no. Then when they ask the dad says yes, right? And then it becomes a point of contention, and then the children will also see that there is a little bit of a tension between husband and wife, and then there will also be a little bit of disunity as well. So these are the little causes of tension at the home, which sometimes is unnecessary, right? So we try to have areas whereby we talk through it and agree on certain things, that how do we discipline or how do we actually deal with our children.
Okay, so there's actually a lot more, right, to parenting or to dealing with our children, but we don't actually have the time to go into that. So we're going to go into our next point, which is actually welcoming Christ in our homes. Obviously today here we are all from the same faith, and obviously then a happy home cannot happen without Christ, right? So we really want to encourage you to help your children to see Christ as someone who cares for us, who truly cares for us, and that Jesus actually understands our struggles and he knows our pains. He's actually a good friend, somebody who loves us genuinely, and the Father is actually an affectionate Father who is deeply interested in us. And if we live that way, if we live our Christian lives, we will be able to influence our children likewise. And then every prayer that is being prayed in the home, or every image that you have, holy pictures that you have, takes on a different meaning for our children. And in that way, we help our children to, we have to speak. They call it like a religious language, It's like we speak English or we speak Chinese or whatever, but we also have to speak that religious language. That means when our children get hurt and we say, oh, your guardian angel was there to protect you. When they are struggling, then we say, you want to say a prayer. So we actually include that in our language of the daily life, and that's like the religious language. That means actually to say a prayer, to do the sign of the cross, to have images around, to have things that helps us to remember that the presence of God is in our lives, to say a prayer before meal, to do, as we bring our children to school, we say a prayer with them on the way to school. And all of these would actually give them that the introduction, in that sense, to the faith. So at the end of it, what we hope is that our children too will take on the faith themselves. So we also bring them for catechism. We also talk to them about God, about religion. So when they go for First Holy Communion, which my son just actually had his First Holy Communion on Wednesday, we talk to him multiple times. It's like, what do you feel before, as he's preparing for his to receive Christ. And then after he has received his communion, what is he thinking about, what's happening? Then we go into discussions with everybody else, like why do you have a Eucharistic fast? What is receiving Christ? Is he just a bread and things like that? So we have conversations like that, and all these help our children to then hopefully ultimately have that personal relationship with God. At the end of it, on their own, they have to have that personal encounter, and only then can they make Christ live in their own hearts, and then they themselves can take on the faith as their own, and they themselves can be convinced and convicted and committed Christians themselves. Okay, then the next point is to be able to do that, one of the things that we want to also talk about, it's kind of related, these 2 points, divine filiation. Divine filiation basically means that we are children of God. Right, and so by our baptism, we are all children of God. And as children of God, then what are the things that you will do as children of God, right? So one is to pray, right, to talk to Jesus, talk to God. And so from a very young age, we help our children to say their nightly prayers, right? And then we thank God for blessings, and there's a lot of praise, there's a lot of thanksgiving. And then on our own, we pray for the children's safety, for their health, for their studies, for their work, for their vocation. So turning to God for everything, and this turning to God is actually a beginning of prayer life, and singing hymns and celebrating feast days. So having traditions is also a very important thing, because traditions in that sense also help our children to have that relationship with the family, and it's part of that family life. So divine filiation also means that as children of God, then we adopt Mother Mary as our mother as well in the homes. So we do try to pray the rosary as a family during May, especially during May and October, and then sometimes try to spill over a little bit. We try that. Then after that, they'll start dwindling off. Our children are not the most keen. They're not like the perfect Christian, so it's not like, wow, then perfect, your family is just praying the rosary all the time. It's not like that. They don't really want to be there. Sometimes halfway through rosary, you're still calling some child down, and then they decide at that time to go and shower, and then they come down, it's 5th decade already, that kind of thing. We try not to scold them, because that only makes it worse. So we just keep inviting, and then some days they're there, some days they pray, some days they don't pray, some days they're sitting there using their phones. We take it along the way, and along the way, sometimes we will pause, we will tell them, come on, say your prayers properly, but sometimes we just let it go, we let it slide, and we believe that Mother Mary will still pour out graces upon them. The fact that they even come down, teenagers that are coming down is actually already a very big thing for them. We also bring them to the sacraments. So we baptize our children as early as we can once they are born. We bring them for Mass. So every Tuesday during Mass booking, you will see us there with multiple computers and iPads and all that, and then we're like 12 o'clock, so we're trying to book for the whole family. That's like 12 people, plus my maid is 9. And I think it's very important to realize that Mass and receiving communion is very different from online Mass. So something that we try to do is we really try to go as often as we can every month to Sunday Mass. And then right now also we try to bring them for reconciliation. So bring our children to the sacraments. Reconciliation for them, we explain to the children, is not scary, because it's like when you quarrel with somebody, you just want to make peace, and that's what it is. It's reconciling with God. It's becoming friends again with God. And so it's a sacrament of joy. And then all the church's teachings, we talk to them, we try and read up ourselves, we try and learn ourselves, and then we go for talks, we try and form ourselves in our spiritual formation so that we can also help our children. And then also, if we remember that God is our Father, then at all points when in family life, you will have your ups and your downs. And as children of God, then we turn back to God. We can always go back to God and say, help me, Father, help me because I'm in this situation right now. And He will help us through our moments when we are discouraged, moments when we are afraid, moments when we are sad, moments when we are struggling. And because for God, nothing is impossible, right? So when we remember that when we have Christ in our homes, and when we remember that God is our loving Father, then our homes will really be truly that kind of Christian homes. And again, I said earlier that when our homes are Christian homes and good, strong homes, we can transform the world. Yeah.
Okay, there are many. So besides the spiritual formation, right? Of course, the other thing that we want to help our children, right, and ourselves is to build up the human virtues. So one of the there are many, but I think one of the key ones that we want to highlight is basically serving others. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I mean, as parents, we are actually servants. We are instruments. So the children are not ours, but they are actually given to us by God, and it's for us to serve them so that the children can serve others, right, and serve God through others. So, so Jesus himself said that he came not to be served, but to serve, right? So one of these things is very important, that we have to teach our children, right, to live their life as one of service. Okay, and then our children must see with their own eyes how they are to give themselves to others, right? So we need to see how they behave within the family, how they understand that love in this life consists of doing good deeds, right, for others. So for a start, right, doing something for the siblings, doing little things that when they do something, right, it's not for themselves but for others. And then, right, they also have to, we also have to also teach our children, right, that that all the talents that we have received from God, right, our intelligence, our memory, right, our willpower, our strength, our spirit of initiative, our spirit of hard work, our loyalty, all our human and supernatural virtues have a greater social purpose, right? We have received all these from God, and we are to put them at the disposal of our neighbors, right? Our money, our goods, all right, all our great ideals. So we also need to emphasize, right, to them, right, to try to imitate, right, the boy whose fish and loaves of bread were multiplied, right, because he did not stingily hold on to them, right? So all these things are something that we need to teach our children to be able to help them to catch this spirit of service, right? Then, of course, in order for them to catch this spirit of service, we have to be able to show and demonstrate this spirit of service in ourselves. Also to find out, right, in their friendship, in their school, whether our child is a good friend to others, whether he's sincere, whether he's loyal to his companions, right? Whether he's generous with his things, right? Especially also with his time, right? So, and also, to see whether his most frequent vocabulary, is it mine or is it I, right? It has to be others. Okay, then the next thing is also about time, right? We go back to time, right? About being with our children. So I think there is a lot of discussion, right, about quality time versus quantity time. So a lot of people will say, quantity is not important, right? We only focus on quality, okay? But actually, both is important, right? You cannot have quality without quantity, right? I mean, we have learned this with our children, all right? Of course, a lot of a lot of parents nowadays, right, both are working, right? They will try to find excuses, right, to try to tell themselves that, hey, actually it's fine, I'm working very hard, I am contributing, I just want them to have a great life, mostly materially, and then I will try to make it up with quality, right? So this does not happen, all right? We know that any occupation, right, that takes up every hour of the day, right, if the priority is not the family, it's not Christian. So our work is diabolical if it keeps us from attending to God, our spouse, and our children, right, and our friends. So in our schedule, there must be time set apart for our family. So time is given, prioritization, it should be for God and the family first, and then work second. Right, so I think nowadays in a society, we are pressured, right? We are taught to prioritize our time, right? Our work is number one, and then comes the others, especially our family. Yeah. So I know that to remember that bringing our children today is not easy, and for sure, it's hard. But we need to also realize that we also need to find time to get support from like-minded families. So we actually spend a lot of time also meeting up with our friends, right, with many kids, some with similar struggles, and then we organize time also with for other children to meet up with our family. So all these interactions actually helps us as parents and also for our children, because with all these things, right, we share stories, we share a meal together, and all these things are actually very important because it shows that we are being with our children and with our family.
Okay, so point 9 is influence and example. Part of our job as parents is actually to discipline our children. And the word discipline, I want to just explain it a little bit. It comes from the word disciple. And the word disciple, it means that is to teach and to lead. So a teacher teaches and the students learn, right? The leader leads and his disciples follow. So discipline means that we are teaching and leading our children ultimately to Christ, right? And so discipline is not punishment. It's not enforcing rules. It does encompass that oftentimes, but it's not that. It's not that alone. So as parents, then we want to discipline our children so that they can become responsible adults in future, responsible Christian adults in future. That is what we're leading towards. And so how do we do that? Then how do we lead them? How do we teach them? It's first of all through role modeling. We know our children are always watching us, especially the little ones. They're always watching us. They mimic everything. You can hear a 2-year-old, 3-year-old start talking, and you say, hey, that one talk like grandpa, or that one talk like daddy or mommy, right? Because they're really following us. They're able to mimic everything that we do. So for us, then, it's important for us to realize that we are role models for our children, like it or not. So are we a good role model, or are we a bad role model, right? So for us to reflect. And it's also from us that we teach our children right from wrong, and then to choose the right, even when it is hard. So many times, if you ask a child, what did they do? They can tell you that what they did is wrong. They can say it, but then they still did the wrong thing. Yeah. So of course, it's part of that journey, and that's why as parents, our job is then to guide them, to lead them, to help them, and that is part of this influence and example that we are trying to help our children to grow in. So if we want our children to be kind and loving, then we have to be the same. And Kirk has also mentioned about virtues, and virtues are basically just good habits. Virtues are something that we do repeatedly over and over again. So in this area of virtues, all of us can still grow in the virtues. We can grow in many virtues: kindness, generosity, reliability, consideration, accountability. So many virtues that we can actually grow in. And as we are growing in all these, we are also helping our children to grow in them. Okay, then the last point is to be positive. Because human nature is such that we complain more easily, we look at defects, we look at negativities faster than any other good points, right? So, however, as a recipient, we want appreciation, we want to be complimented, we want to be praised. So when we are dealing with our family members, especially our children, let us not harp on their defects, but let us then help them to see the goodness that we see in them. So when we are able to affirm them and affirm them as specifically as possible, in what you see, it's not just good boy, well done, but really saying, I see you being very kind to your brother just now when you gave him the last piece of chicken nugget or something like that. Or, so if you can say it specifically and clearly, you will see that child knowing that, okay, my parent has seen that and they have affirmed me in that, and it helps them in future to grow in that area. So we have 2 daughters and then 4 sons. The first 2 girls first, and then the 4 younger ones are boys. So for a long time, the eldest son, he was, I think he was a bit lost when the 3 younger boys came along. So being kind of like the middle child, right? So I was trying to see what is something that I could affirm him in. So one of the things I noticed was he was always taking care of the younger brothers. So I affirmed him. I said, I see the love that you have for your brothers. And up to today, I think I really still see that. And because I said that, I think that got him to say that that's me, that's my strength. And he continued to ride on that strength. So remember that an affirmation can actually save us many scoldings, right? So if we can affirm our children, we don't need to scold them in future because they know that that's the one thing that they're doing well. So affirmations are very effective ways, very educative, very positive, and also very Christian ways of teaching our children. So kind of wrapping up, we thought that this is a nice little quotation that we want to read to you. So more love than fear, more virtues than sin, more angels than devils, more contrition than attrition, more confidence than fear, more amusement than boredom, more encouragement than scoldings, more rewards than punishments, more praise than censure, more ideals than prohibitions, more cheerfulness than bad humor. So with that, these are the 10 points that we have talked about. Yeah, it's really like condensing a lot of things together. And yeah, so we thank you. And I think it was difficult for us to say too much in 45 minutes. So we thought we actually have about 5 more minutes. We could actually open the floor to anyone who wants to ask us any specific questions on how do we deal with our, or if you want to share anything as well, please go ahead.
What made you come for this talk? I guess everyone comes from a family, right? Right. Ultimately, right. I think everybody wants to achieve a certain wants our home to be bright and cheerful. I believe, right. Of course, it always starts with us, right? We have to have that desire. I think once we have the desire, then that will help a lot. Yeah.
Also as parents to create that environment, that space. So I think that's one of the reasons why we came, is to actually learn some tips how to go about doing it, because we are all still learning, still struggling, and the kids are still young. And I presume that as they grow older, there'll be different dynamics that come in as well. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we decided to come. Do we have any questions? You have questions? Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for the tips.
So you got 6 kids, right?
Yeah.
So how do you keep the peace?
How do we keep our
like
peace?
2-3 kids, and every time I'm working from home, it's like a battlefield. So I mean, how do you guys do it? Because 6, right? I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a,
I think for us, boundaries are quite important. One of the things, okay, so I actually read up a lot about parenting. Actually, I do a lot of parenting talks, and I actually run Cherrybrook Preschool. So I manage, I've been managing little children for a long time until now, right? I think for us, one of the things that we learned from early on is to be consistent. So when you say no, it's a no, but you have to realize where your no is. You have to decide already. That's why Kirk was saying that we already have that discussion and we know where is the no, right? And then we don't shift the line as we move along. So when our children were really young, and if they whine, I want this now, like I want this toy, then if we say no, then it's a no. We're not going to give in because they cry louder or they whine a long time. The other thing that we also try to prevent is to prevent them from whining. So I think it starts from when they're really young. So when they whine, we tell them we can't hear you when you speak like that. You have to speak clearly, and then we can see what you want. So of course sometimes they are really crying and they may like, I want it. Then I say, okay, try and say it nicer. We don't expect like super nice, and if they just even try to stop the tears and try to say, then we accept it, and then we actually stop the whining from an early stage. So that's one thing. And then boundaries are very clear. So we set the rules and we set the expectations, right? So like just now I was talking about how we are demanding. We are respectful, but we are demanding. So if let's say I'm having a bad day, or let's say I'm driving and I don't know where to go and maybe I'm a bit stressed, I will actually tell the children, I mean, so many children in the car making so much noise, I'll say, I need all of you to be quiet, please be considerate, and I'm trying to find this place and I don't know where it is, so all of you need to be quiet right now. So I usually will say things like that in a very respectful, clear, but yet demanding manner. And then I say, you all cannot talk until I reach the destination and I park my car, then you can start talking. So I will say things like that, so it's clear lah. It's clear the boundaries are there, they know what to expect, they know what to do. So for a long time, actually 2 of us were struggling with the children going to church. And I was breastfeeding, then we had so many, right? So 2 hands not enough, no? Then breastfeeding, then trying to grab this one, then that one running out of the pew, then how do you keep your leg? Yeah, so we were doing that kind of stuff. But so what we used to do was on the way to church, we would say, where are we going to church? What do we do in church? Then they say, to pray. Then I was like, can you play? No, cannot. Then we go through, we say that until we reach church, right? They will still misbehave. So that's the other thing we also realized, that even though we have said so much, they may not still follow. But each time they are improving. Each time you see the improvement as well. So that's kind of how we have managed all these years. And I think our children have come to realize that when we say no, it's a no. And also 2 of us are always in that unity, right? So one person will not say no and the other one say yes. So then our children have said to us, don't ask y'all, because y'all 2 will always say the same thing. Yeah. So they'll say things like that, lah, which then we all were like, yes, that means we've done it right, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe back to your question about how do we maintain the peace at home, right? No, I mean, of course we still struggle. Of course there is a lot of fighting. Well, this COVID is a big challenge because there are 8 people in the house, right? And sometimes my father-in-law stays over. And then we have 2 of us working from home, right? And then we have our 2 girls who are also doing, so everybody's school HBL, right? So there are 8 people doing lessons at the same time, right? Trying to find the peace, right? And trying to find a space. Okay, we don't have a big space, okay? We try to manage. But somehow, I think with a big family, right, during the times whereby you have to give in, right? There are times you have to give in and give up some things. So I think they have learned along the way. So I think although it was challenging, it was pleasantly peaceful, right? Everybody managed to find a space, right? Nobody really complained a lot, right? But of course, the challenge we have is we have to get our kids to sign into their Zoom right, for lessons, right? So we have this, we have different timings, right? 7:30, you have to get up, go to the Zoom. Then another guy is 7:45, okay, you better get into the Zoom. Then another guy so it's all these constant reminders. So it's challenging, but I think because along the way, we have to learn how to live as a big family, right? Because there is only so limited space, there's limited resources. So I think along the way, these are the natural things that a large family helps our kids and also us to learn that, we have to give in, we have to sometimes give up. You can't have everything. So naturally, they learn it. Yeah.
Okay, I think we will close it here, but I think just one last point, which is I've noticed that when my prayer life is good, then my peace is better. So when you are really struggling, say a prayer. Yeah. So we end here with a glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for your time.